Hi all, I welcome you all to the next lecture today. Here Professor Ravi Kumar, School of Mechanical Engineering, Shastra Limtu University, Tanjavur. In previous lecture, we have covered about a brief description of all sort of rockets, and you were given a detailed explanation of chemical rockets, right? Liquid propellant rocket, and you have also seen applications of liquid propellant rockets. So today, in we will start with discussion of solid propellant rocket. Then we'll go for hybrid rocket. Then we'll see the advanced propulsion rockets like electric rockets, nuclear rockets, and plasma rockets. All right, so let's start our discussion for today. So the first one is the solid propellant rocket motor. As I already said that the solid propellant rocket motor is easy to construct. In a shorter period of time. You can construct it. If you look at the construction, right, of the solid propellant rocket, it requires a casing. This is basically a engine casing, and within the casing, fuel and oxidizer will be filled, right, in a solid form, right. This is a solid rocket fuel and oxidizer will be mined up within this casing, right. And an igniter will be needed to start the combustion in this case. So this is the igniter, right, at one end. All right, and this is the core, right, in between area that you are seeing is the core where burning will take place, right. So burning will be uncontrolled here. There will be no control on burning when they start, right. You cannot shut off in between. So burning will go either this side or this side based on the grain directions. All right, and finally hot temperature gases will come here. This is the nozzle area, right. At the nozzle wall particularly, you look at this, these are basically heat resistance materials, right, to avoid any kind of heat losses to the casing, right. So hot temperature gases will expand through this nozzle at very high speed, and it will get the thrust, basically. So this is the cut section of the solid propellant rocket, and if you look at this image, this is the full prototype of a solid propellant motor. So this is the casing, right. Within that solid propellant will be wind up, right, that fuel and oxidizer will be in solid form. This is the end, right, where igniter will be there, from which burning will start at initiate, and then after that hot temperature gas is expelled through this nozzle, right, at very high velocity, and execute the thrust. So fuel and oxidizer in solid binder, right, as I clearly mentioned, and solid propellants are basically explosive of nitroglycerin, nitromethane, and trinitrotoluene. So these are the three major solid propellants are being used in solid propellant motor. So as from the geometry we see that it is a very simple design and construction. So large number of small size rockets for military purposes can be produced in a shorter period of time, right. And another thing is that they do not require any kind of feed pump system. So because of the absence of those reciprocating or rotary components, solid propellant rockets will not face any kind of vibration issues, and that's why they are lightweight compared to the liquid propellant rocket. Only disadvantage is that once burning has started, you cannot set off the burning in between. That means burning is uncontrollable. So, and you can use this only for one time, so single use, no restart capability. In the case of emergency, you cannot switch off the operation, right? That is another big problem with this kind of configuration. Lower performance than liquid systems, but much simpler. And they find application particularly launch vehicles and space vehicles. So if we look at the solid propellant geometries, right? So solid propellants can be frame fabricated either in this way, right, or in this way. So that depends on the burning rate, right? Aggressive burning rate or slow burning rate. So particularly we need too much turbulence. So this kind of perforations are preferable, right, to get very high burning rate. So these will be filled within that casing, and that case will be protected particularly due to this propellant. So only burning start from this center and will go up to this outer layer and it ends. Right, so the shape of combustion channel, right, particularly are pre-programmed pressure and thrust profile. So based on the output, we can decide the geometry of solid propellants to be filled in that casing, right? So this kind of perforations will be there, and this hole that you are seeing here, from this end, your combustion will start, right? Basically, so combustion will go this side and that side towards the outer casing. If we look at the hybrid motor, right, hybrid is a combination of two propellants. So fuel will be in the form of solid and oxidizer will be in the form of liquid. So it is a combination of two propellants, right? So look at this tank. This is oxidizer tank, and oxidizer tank is fitted with a oxygen control valve. And this is the ordinary solid propellant, right? Pellets are there. These are solid propellants, and this core is provided, right, through which after burning hot gases will come into the nozzle. So geometry slightly complex compared to the solid propellant rockets, right? Because oxidizer need to be filled separately. So in a tank, so extra tank is needed. But advantage of this combination is that now uncontrolled, like in solid propellant rocket, burning was uncontrolled. You was not having any control over the burning, but here you can control it with the help of auxiliary oxygen control valve. So in the case of emergency, you can shut down the operation of hybrid rocket motor. And another thing is that once you have utilized it, again you can fill it. Right, oxidizer can be filled and solid propellant can be again filled. So it is having restart capability, right? When you can switch off and again you can switch on. So multi-start capability, right? Terminate flow of oxidizer. So fuel particularly that is being used in the hybrid motor may have a rubber or plastic base and are inert. So anything which can burn can be filled inside in this combustion chamber, right? Uh, as a fuel. And oxidizer here, the moment oxidizer comes and react with the solid propellant, right? Your burning starts. So there is no igniter needed here in this case. So oxidizer include means liquid oxygen or hydrogen peroxide and 2O2 and nitrous oxide NO2. So either of these can be used as oxidizer. The moment these oxidizer come in contact with the solid propellant fuel, automatically burning starts. So there is no need of igniter. You look at nowhere igniter is attached. All right. So advantages over solid propellant: shut down and restart capabilities there, right, compared to the solid propellant rocket. So more controllability uh, is available with the hybrid motors, right, compared to the solid propellant rockets. If we look at the rocket performance calculation, so basically rockets are designed to get high thrust with reasonable specific impulse. So thrust and specific impulse are the two important parameters which will decide the type of rocket. So thrust is the amount of force generated by the rocket, and a specific impulse is a measure of engine performance, right? So if we look at this, this is known as specific impulse, force divided by the weight flow rate of the propellant. So the unit will be per second. So how much second your rocket can operate, right? That will be decided by the specific impulse. So when these equations are developed, right, we have assumed no losses due to gravity effect or aerodynamic drag. So they, whatever value you will be getting from mathematical equations will be accurate for short burn in earth orbit or in deep space. So if we look at the thrust, as I said, that high temperature gases are being expelled through the nozzle. As a result of that, you are getting thrust. So thrust will have two components basically: pressure thrust and jet thrust or momentum thrust. So the velocity by which it is coming, that is will give you the jet thrust, and the nozzle geometry, as you have seen, it is a variable area nozzle, right? Inlet area is different than the throat area. So pressure at exit and pressure at chamber will be different. and exit area. If you multiply pressure into area, that will also give the thrust. So there will be pressure thrust as well as jet thrust. So jet thrust basically will be generating from the hot gases, right? And pressure thrust is basically generated from the cold flow. So if we look at the equation, right, momentum thrust, or you can say jet thrust, is nothing but a mass flow rate of the propellant. Mass flow rate is nothing but weight flow rate divided by g will give the mass flow rate, and jet velocity, right, bj. There is no initial velocity of the rocket, right? So this jet velocity will be considered as important parameter for this jet thrust, plus area at exit, pressure at exit minus pressure at atmospheric, right? Outside, what is the pressure, what is the pressure by which your gases are coming out? So difference of this into area will give the pressure thrust, right? So the combination of these two will usually give you the total thrust. But in the case of optimum expansion through the nozzle, when we say it is optimum expansion, that means the pressure at exit of the nozzle will be exactly equal to the atmospheric pressure. And that is the case, then the second term will vanish. When optimum performance, when we say that is maximum possible thrust, in that case second term will not be present, right? This term will not be there. So thus thrust is equal to mass flow rate of propellant into jet velocity will give the thrust in optimum condition. If it is not optimum, sometime it is under expansion or over expansion, in that case PE will not be exactly equal to PA, so there will be difference. Then you need to consider that difference into calculation to find out the actual thrust of the rocket motor. So this is the generic equation that will be applied to find out the thrust for the nozzle. So based on the specific impulse, if we compare different kind of different kind of rockets, we can summarize them as follows. The first simplest form of rocket was discussed, stored gas, where gas was stored at high pressure and it was allowed to expand through the nozzle to create the thrust. So in that case, specific impulse will be less, right, and thrust produced will also be less. So stored gas can give the performance of a specific impulse between 60 to 179 seconds. Then after that, monopropellant hydrogen rocket can give performance up to 235 seconds starting from 185. And solid propellant rocket motors performance will lie between 280 to 300. If you want to cross that, then you have to use the hybrid rocket motor. So hybrid rockets performance is 290 to 340 seconds. Then came bipropellants, right? Storable bipropellants will give performance around 300 to 330 seconds. And if you are going for liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen based rockets, they will be able to give you the specific impulse of 450 seconds. So based on the specific impulse, you can decide the type of rockets to be used, right? So specific impulse is very important, parameter to decide the type of rocket. So specific impulse depends on many factors, right? It depends on altitude, right, nozzle expansion ratio particularly, and mixture ratio, at what rate you are mixing the propellants, right, fuel and oxidizer in the combustion chamber, as well as combustion chamber temperature. High the combustion chamber temperature, high will be the specific impulse. So this is one of the famous example of the rocket, that's thruster basically, and this was used in the Viking lander. It has a specific impulse of about 225 second. So this Viking lander is nothing but there was a Viking program launched by the NASA, right, on 28th August 1975. So actually, this Viking project found a place in history when it became the first US mission to land a spacecraft safely on the surface of Mars and return images of the surface. So, with the help of Viking spacecraft, particularly, US achieved a breakthrough in the space technology. Right, first the US mission to land on the spacecraft safely. So they launched basically two spacecraft simultaneously, Viking 1 and Viking 2. Each spacecraft was composed of two main parts, right? One was the orbiter designed to photograph the surface of Mars from the orbit, and a lander, right, designed to study the planet from the Earth surface. So the first spacecraft Viking 1 was launched on 28th August 1975, and the last flight was on 9th September 1975, that was Viking 2. So on that spacecraft particularly, this thruster was used, right, to provide the launching, right, uh, s- uh, on the surface, right, particularly on the Mars. So this is a very famous example, right, of the thruster. So 225. So basically, it was one of the chemical rocket thruster that was used on Viking lander. So let's see some of the simple numerical problems, right, based on these two equations, right, that recently we have discussed about thrust and specific impulse. So this is the first problem, which says that a rocket burns fuel at the rate of 1.2 kilogram per second with an exhaust velocity of 1250 meter per second. What thrust does it develop? It's very simple problem. What is given? Mass flow rate of propellant is given, and the exhaust velocity is given. So nowhere it is mentioned that area ratio of the nozzle or something else, nothing is mentioned. So total thrust is basically summation of jet thrust plus pressure thrust, and pressure thrust is absent in this case, only jet thrust. So jet thrust is mass flow rate into exhaust velocity will give you the thrust. Very simple way you can calculate the thrust. So F is equal to mass flow rate into change in velocity. What is given? Change in velocity and mass flow rate is basically given. So if you multiply these two, will give the total thrust. So total thrust generated is 1500 Newton. Like that you can solve. Let's see the second example. So second example, basically a model rocket engine develops 12 Newton of thrust with an exhaust velocity. What is the fuel burn rate? So this is a reverse problem. Now you have been provided with a thrust and exhaust velocity and mass flow rate being asked. Simple formula F is equal to mass flow rate into Cj. You can solve this, right? So it is coming around 0.167 kilogram per second. So this kind of simple problems will be there. You can easily solve it, right? Fundamental using fundamental relations. Let's go for the advanced propulsion rockets. So first one is electric propulsion. So electric propulsion rockets divided into three categories: electrothermal, electrostatic, and electromagnetic. All right. So by simply providing the electricity, you can generate the temperature, and that can be expanded to get the thrust called electrothermal, right? Electrostatic, simple two nodes are there, and that basically currents are flowing, and because of that temperature is generated. And electromagnetic, with the help of means magnetic field and electricity current, you are basically heating the propellant to generate the thrust. So if we compare basically different kind of rockets and their performances, right? This is thrust, over this is a specific impulse, right? So these are the chemical rocket range, right? Particularly, they are known to have very high thrust, right? But their specific impulse lies between 200 to 300. If you are augmenting that with the help of N2H4 and NS3, maximum can go up to 400 seconds, right? If you are using solar and nuclear antimatter laser, right, H2 electrothermal rockets, right, in that case you can have a specific impulse of around 1000 seconds, right, and with reasonable thrust as well. But if you are going for advanced propulsion like electric propulsion, magnetic, and ion, in that case, specific impulse is more, but thrust is less. Thrust produced is very, very less. You look at only 10 Newton thrust maximum can be generated with the help of this. So higher is specific impulse rockets basically being used for the movement within the orbit, right, or for attitude control for the spacecraft. Particularly we use these kind of rockets, ion, electric propulsion, or magnetic rockets, right, particularly movement within the orbit or a slight jump from one orbit to another orbit. Particularly these kind of rockets are preferable compared to the chemical rockets, and chemical rockets particularly being used for basically launching the spacecraft from the ground to the low Earth orbit. And after that, these kind of small rockets can be used, right, for controlling the spacecraft in the orbit or within the orbit to orbit transit. So, if we talk about the electric propulsion, they are having very low thrust, but they are having very high specific impulse, more than 1000 seconds. All right, so basically for generation this much they requires larger amount of power in kilowatt. So this is one example famous picture I have taken from Jet Propulsion Laboratory, right? So this thruster is nothing but xenon ion engine. So the blue color rays that you are seeing here which is coming out, these are nothing but charged atoms, right, which are coming out from the engine. So this was the first non-chemical propulsion to be used, the primary means of propelling a spacecraft. So this already been used and they have used it on a spacecraft particularly, and this is basically a non-chemical kind of propulsion. So when we talk about the xenon ion, their thrust will be less, right? Usually within the range of 10 Newton, but specific impulse in the range of 3000 seconds. So if we go for electrothermal, right, here electrical power is used to add energy to the exhaust products. So this is the simplest form of electrothermal rocket, right? We are having this coil that is called resistor, right, and through which currents will be flowing, and with the help of this current, right, your hydrogen that is called fuel basically will be decomposed, and when that's going to decompose, it will generate the high temperature gases which will expel through this nozzle to generate the thrust. So catalytical decomposition of hydrogen is augmented with the high power electric heater. Is a coil, right, to which heat will be generated. So it will be requiring around 800 to 5000 watt of power, right, for creating thrust. Second example is with the help of arc. So these are there, right, and these arcs will be used to provide the hot gases which will come out through the nozzle to create the thrust. So high voltage arc at the nozzle throat basically adds thermal energy to the exhaust, and that will be expanding at high velocity, and you will get the thrust. So next one is electrostatic propulsion, right? In electrostatic, basically you will be developing the plasma. That plasma will be accelerating at high speed through the screen, right, to create the thrust. So example is xenon ion thruster, right? Xenon is the propellant, right, which will be coming from here. And if you look at the geometry, these two are the permanent magnets. Same setup is available here. So this is cathode and this is anode, right? Two anodes are there. So the purpose of anodes to absorb or to control the reaction, right? Particularly plasma in one direction. So electrostatic forces basically will be used to accelerate the charged particles. These are the charged particles which will be generating here. They will go through this screen and will accelerate at high velocity, and you will get the thrust. Clear? So xenon is ionized by bombardment, right? Electron by bombardment through cathode tube, right? So positively charged particles accelerate by this grid. They will go through this grid and will accelerate and expelled out of it, and you will get the thrust in opposite direction. So any electron which are going in opposite direction, right, against the flow direction, right, will be neutralized with the help of these neutralized point, or you can say neutralizing neutralizers, right. So electron routed to the second anode and injected into the beam to neutralize it. So this is the famous picture, right, which I have taken, which is basically used xenon ion propulsion system. ES is Smart 1. So the Smart 1 was a Swedish designed European Space Agency satellite that orbited around the moon, right, and it was basically launched with the help of Ariane 5 rockets, right, from European Space Agency. So this is a famous example, right, which has used xenon ion thruster particularly. Uh, so this is basically advanced propulsion rocket being used on the satellite. Next one is electromagnetic propulsion. So electromagnetic forces are used here instead of electrostatic. So electromagnetic forces are used to accelerate the plasma. So a gas consisting of positive ion electrons. So temperature generated will be in the range of 5000 to 9000 degree radian. So you look at here is the cathode, right? Cathode tube, and this is the propellant flow. So here magnetic field will be generated. So when the moment your propellant is coming in contact with the proper magnetic field, it will burn and your gases will be generated, right? So here basically neutral beam will be generated in this way. So they will come from here, will interact with the magnetic field. This is the magnetic field you look at here, and after that neutral beam will be produced. So higher thrust point area than electrostatic thruster. Compared to that, it can generate slightly better thrust. So if we look at the classification of that, basically there are two types: magnetoplasma dynamic and pulse plasma. So pulse plasma is nothing but electric discharge creates plasma from solid telephone, and these basically works on the Hall effect. So Hall effect, you may be knowing, it is the production of a voltage difference across an electric conductor transfers to an electrical current in the conductor and to an applied magnetic field perpendicular to the current. So current is coming like that and magnetic field is perpendicular to that. Because of that, there will be generation of voltage, and because of that voltage, propellant will burn and you will get a neutral beam at the end, right? So that beam will be accelerating at very high speed. As a result, you will get the thrust. So it was developed by the Russia, and it was used on US STX mission 1998. So this STX mission is nothing but satellite mission program. So it was a low cost and low mass technology demonstration mission sponsored by the US NRO. NRO is nothing but National Reconnaissance Office. So they launched this mission on October 3, 1998, and this is also known as NRO 8 mission. This US STAX mission is also known as NRO 8 mission. NRO form is National Reconnaissance Office. So first time electromagnetic propulsion find application right in the satellite NAM US STAX mission. What is the future now? So interplanetary travels will require advanced forms of propulsion technology. Now we are looking. Scientists are looking for, advanced propulsion system by using antimatter, right? Two different matter as the fuel and oxidizer, or nuclear fusion, or non-rocket methods, right? Which their fundamentals would be entirely different. So a lot of research is going on in this field, particularly to develop advanced rocket motors, right, to have a better exploration of space, right? So still some more research is needed, right, to make us more, comfortable to find out a device, right, to reach at a very very high altitude. Still a lot of possibilities are there in space to get explored. So that's why engineers and scientists are invited to come up with some new proposal to develop advanced propulsion rockets. So with this, I'm closing this topic, particularly the types of rockets and introduction to rocketry. If you are having any doubt in this, feel free to write in the comment section, or you can directly contact to me on my WhatsApp number. So with this, we are concluding today the types of rockets and concept of rocketry. So basically, in this segment, we have gone through the conventional types of rocket like liquid propellant rocket or solid propellant rocket. Then we have seen the hybrid rocket, right, a stored gas kind of rockets, right. Then finally we come to the advanced propulsion rockets, right? There we have discussed about electric rocket. Then we have gone for xenon ion thruster, right? And electromagnetic rockets, right? And further some more exploration is also needed, right? Some more new rockets will also get developed soon, right? Because human curiosity is keep on increasing to explore each and every corner of the space, right? And US has already started lot of work, right, for developing advanced propulsion devices, right, to explore the space. So in coming future, right, we will be witness to see some more advanced propulsion rockets. So here I'm closing the today's discussion. Thanks for listening the today's lecture. See you all in the next class. Have a nice day. Good day.